Ascent Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Good Habits by Harvard Business Review. Narrated by Rachel Perry and Steve Menasche. 1. What does it really take to build a new habit? By Christy DePaul. Our habits govern our lives, literally. Research shows that around half of our daily actions are driven by repetition. This is probably why behavioral scientists and psychologists have spent so much time writing about how to establish and keep positive habits. Regular sleep and exercise, a healthy diet, an organized schedule, and mindfulness are just a few examples of practices that, if done regularly, can improve our work, relationships, and mental health. But what if those things don't come naturally to you? What does it take to build a new habit? While there are plenty of hacks on the internet competing to answer these questions, the neuroscience behind habit formation doesn't offer shortcuts. Experts advocate for the old-fashioned approach: incremental progress. Dedicated commitment is what, time and again, has proven to lead to change. Surprisingly, the first step toward creating long-term change involves building routines, not habits themselves. Routines versus habits. Most of us assume the two are interchangeable, but Nir Eyal, author of Indistractable: How to Control Your Attention and Choose Your Life, told me that this is a common fallacy, one that tends to end in disappointment. When we fail at forming new patterns of behavior, we often blame ourselves, he said, rather than the bad advice we read from someone who doesn't really understand what can and cannot be a habit. Eyal explained that a habit is a behavior done with little or no thought, while a routine involves a series of behaviors frequently and intentionally repeated. A behavior has to be a regularly performed routine before it can become a habit at all. The problem is that many of us try to skip the routine phase. According to Eyal, this is because we think that habits will allow us to put tedious or unenjoyable tasks on autopilot. Your to-do list would be so much better if it just conquered itself somehow. It makes sense. Unlike habits, routines are uncomfortable and require a concerted effort. Waking up early to run every morning, or meditating for 10 minutes every night, for instance, are rituals that, initially, are hard to keep up. Habits, on the other hand, are so ingrained in our daily lives that it feels strange not to do them. Imagine not brushing your teeth before bed, or not drinking a cup of coffee with breakfast. If these are habits you have already formed, avoiding them might even feel bad. To attempt to turn a routine into a habit, take the following steps. Set your intentions. Keep in mind that some routines may blossom into habits, but not all of them can or will. Some things, while quantifiable, require too much concentration, deliberation, and effort to make the transition. For that reason, playing an instrument, cleaning your apartment, or journaling don't fall into the habit category. They're not effortless behaviors that can be done without conscious thought. The point is, pick the behavior you want to turn into a habit wisely. Maybe you want to drink more water throughout the day, or skip checking your email first thing in the morning. Whatever you choose, be realistic about the process. It will take patience, self-discipline, and commitment. There's no such thing as 21 days to start a new habit, Charles Duhigg, author of The Power of Habit, told me. The amount of time it takes will vary from person to person. Developing a pleasurable habit, like eating chocolate for breakfast, for instance, may take a day, while trying to exercise at 5 p.m. each evening may take much longer. Jimena Bengoechea, a UX researcher and author of the book listen like you mean it, added, reflect on what you're trying to achieve and why. Say your goal is to be a writer. Are you interested in writing a novel for fame, prestige, or money? Is it to gain the acceptance or love of someone you care about? Or is it simply because you love the craft? Understanding the why will help you stay motivated when inevitable roadblocks to building new routines surface. Prepare for roadblocks. Reflect on why, to date, you haven't regularly practiced this behavior. What has stopped you in the past? Is fear or shame getting in the way? Or a lack of time? Familiarize yourself with your own blockers now so that you can quickly identify and manage them when they arise later on, because they will, Vengoechea said. Maybe a busy schedule has kept you from hitting the gym every day. To avoid this occurrence from happening in the future, block 30 to 60 uninterrupted minutes on your calendar right now. Maybe you're just not feeling motivated enough lately. To keep yourself accountable, find an ally, or two, to share your goals with. This could be a trusted manager, peer, friend, partner, or family member. Make sure you share your ambitions, intentions, plans, and maybe even fears with someone who can support you and remind you of why you're taking this on in the first place, when the going gets tough, Vengoechea said. Research shows that your odds of success increase dramatically when you make your intentions known to someone perceived to have a higher status than yourself, or someone whose opinion you value. Start with nudges. You can put in place practical steps or nudges to help you kick off your new routine. Use one or all of the following suggestions to get organized and begin. Make a schedule. Block regular times on your calendar, every day or every other day, to practice the behavior you want to build into a habit. Be sure not to overdo it initially. If you dive in too fast and expect results right away, Vengoechea said, odds are you will fail and become discouraged before you even begin. Set micro-habits. In the spirit of keeping things simple, another option is to try out micro-habits, incremental adjustments that, over time, move you closer to achieving your goals. Think of them like stepping stones that lead you to your final destination. Here are a few examples to give you the idea. The goal: read more industry-related news. What you can do: create Google alerts for topics directly related or even adjacent to your career interests, prompting you to click through and read at least one or two alerts every day. The goal: get better quality sleep. What you can do: blue light from our screens hampers a good night's sleep. Keep your favorite books beside your bed and leave your phone to charge in another room. When winding down for the night, you'll probably choose the nearby book instead of doom scrolling. The goal: strengthen your network. What you can do: encourage yourself to reach out to others with visual cues. Put sticky notes with messages like, "Did you show gratitude to a colleague today?" Or, "Reach out to someone new," on your screen as a way to remind yourself of your goal. Try temptation bundling. This last type of nudge aims to make obligatory tasks more enjoyable. The concept itself was coined by researcher Katie Milkman and her colleagues, and it's fairly straightforward. Take an activity you don't like to do and something you do enjoy, then bundle them together. In practice, here's what temptation bundling can look like. Package a behavior that gives you instant gratification: checking TikTok, listening to music, or binging your favorite podcast series, with a beneficial but less fun activity: running on the treadmill, filling out a spreadsheet, or doing chores around the house. Only allow yourself to do the fun thing in tandem with the not-so-fun thing. In Milkman's study, for example, the researchers gave participants iPods with 4 audio novels they wanted to listen to, but could only access while working out. By and large, participants' gym attendance increased because it was tied to an indulgence. Show yourself compassion. Lastly, don't forget to be compassionate with yourself as you embark on this journey toward more thoughtful routines and hopefully better habits. Any long-term change is going to take time. That's just the reality. There will be ups and downs. But you are capable, and if you've made it this far, you are also prepared. Let the tools you've learned today be your compass. Let them guide you when you feel off track, which, by the way, is a totally normal feeling when you're trying something new. Now, go get started.
2. How to Break Up with Your Bad Habits by Judd Brewer. Breaking habits is hard. We all know this, whether we've failed our latest diet, again, or felt the pull to refresh our Instagram feed instead of making progress on a work project that is past due. This is largely because we are constantly barraged by stimuli engineered to make us crave and consume. Stimuli that hijack the reward-based learning system in our brains designed initially for survival. Put simply, reward-based learning involves a trigger, for example, the feeling of hunger, followed by a behavior, eating food, and a reward, feeling sated. We want to do more of the things that feel good and less of the things that feel bad or stressful. These three components, trigger, behavior, and reward, show up every time we smoke a cigarette or eat a cupcake. This is especially true at work. Each time we try to soothe ourselves from a taxing assignment, we reinforce the reward to the point where unhealthy distractions can become habits. So why can't we just control ourselves and decide to replace bad habits with good ones? The doctrine of self-control has been promulgated for decades, despite the fact that researchers at Yale and elsewhere have shown that the brain networks associated with self-control, for example, the prefrontal cortex, are the first to go offline when faced with triggers such as stress. Still, in medical school, I was taught to pass self-control rhetoric on to my patients. Need to lose weight? Quit eating junk food. Trying to quit smoking? Stop cold turkey or use a nicotine replacement. When I started actually practicing medicine, however, I quickly learned that it doesn't work this way in real life. Self-control theories have missed something critical. Reward-based learning is based on rewards, not behaviors. How rewarding a behavior is drives how likely we are to repeat that behavior in the future. This is why self-control as an approach to breaking habits often fails. Over the past 20 years, I've researched ways to create a better method by bringing the scientific and clinical practices together. My time spent studying the behavioral neuroscience of how habits form and the best way to tackle them helped me find a surprising, natural way to do this. Mindfulness. By using mindfulness training to make people more aware of the reward reinforcing their behavior, I can help them tap into what is driving their habit in the first place. Once this happens, they are more easily able to change their association with the reward from a positive one to a more accurate and often negative one. When someone joins our program to quit smoking, for example, the first thing I have them do is pay attention while they're smoking. They often give me a quizzical look because they're expecting me to tell them to do something other than smoke, like eat candy as a substitute when they have a craving. But because a reward drives future behavior and not the behavior itself, I have my clients pay attention to what it tastes and feels like when they smoke. The goal is to make the patient aware of the reward value or the level of positive reaffirmation they are getting from the habit they want to change. The higher the value, the more likely they are to repeat the behavior. I see the same thing happen over and over again. The reward value of the habit decreases because it isn't as gratifying as people remember. One client of mine, for instance, thought the act of smoking made her look cool as a teenager. Even though that motivation had dissipated in her adulthood, her brain still associated positive feelings with smoking. Hence, her reward value was high. When that same client started paying attention as she smoked, she realized that cigarettes taste bad, commenting, "Smells like stinky cheese and tastes like chemicals. Yuck." This helped her brain update the reward value of her habit. She was able to get accurate information about how smoking feels right now, which then helped her become disenchanted with the process. After seeing how effective this practice was with my clients, I decided to test it even further. My lab and I developed 3 apps that deliver this same kind of mindfulness training to anyone with a smartphone via short sequential lessons over a period of 3 to 4 weeks. The apps are designed to help people break bad habits, such as smoking, overeating, and anxiety, which, oddly enough, is driven by the same habit loops as the other 2 behaviors. Tens of thousands of people from around the world have used these apps, and my lab has published a number of studies showing significant, clinically meaningful results. 5 times the smoking quit rates of gold standard treatment, 40% reductions in craving-related eating, and a 63% reduction in anxiety. In a recent randomized controlled trial, we even found that our mindfulness app for smoking cessation taught users how to better control the part of their brain that gets overactivated by smoking cues and chocolate cravings. While our research has been focused primarily on changing health-related habits, we believe it is highly relevant to the workplace. Our strategy can help workers up their productivity, morale, and overall performance by teaching them how to overcome the habits that may be holding them back from thriving. Here's how to get started. 1. Map out your habit loops. As I advise people in my outpatient clinic, the first step to breaking a habit, no matter what it is to figure out your triggers. If the habit is procrastination or stress eating at work, for example, pay attention to the circumstances surrounding you when you do those things. Do you have a big project you're trying to avoid? Do you have too much on your plate to manage? Once you know your triggers, try to identify the behaviors you engage in when you are acting out. Do you check social media instead of doing work? Do you snack on sweets during challenging assignments? You must be able to name the actions you turn to for comfort or peace of mind before you can evaluate their reward values. 2. See what you actually get out of those actions. The next step is to clearly link action and outcome. Remember my patient who struggled to quit smoking? Just like I asked her to pay attention to the act of smoking, I am asking you to pay attention to how you feel when you partake in your habit. If you stress eat, how does it feel to eat junk food when you aren't hungry? How does what you eat impact the state of your mind and body 15 minutes after the fact? If you procrastinate, what do you get from surfing the internet for pictures of cute puppies? How rewarding is it in the moment, especially when you realize that it isn't helping you get your work done? Remember your answers to these questions or write them down to help solidify them in your mind. This new awareness you have developed will help your brain accurately update the reward value of the habit you want to break. You will begin to see that X behavior leads to Y consequences, and often those consequences are holding you back from reaching your full potential. 3. Replace the reward with curiosity. The final step to creating sustainable, positive habit change is to find a new reward that is more rewarding than the existing behavior. The brain is always looking for that bigger, better offer. Imagine you are trying to break a bad habit like stress eating at work, and willpower hasn't quite worked out for you. What if instead of indulging in your candy craving to counteract a negative emotion, you substituted it with curiosity about why you were having that craving in the first place and what it feels like in your body and your mind? The reward value of curiosity, opening yourself up, is tangibly different than that of stress eating, closing yourself down in this instance. Ultimately, curiosity feels better in the moment and is much more enjoyable than the rumination that often occurs after giving in to a bad habit. To tap into their curiosity, I teach my patients a simple mantra. As in, be curious about your feelings. What does this craving feel like when it first arrives before I have decided to indulge it? People often learn pretty quickly that cravings are made up of physical sensations and thoughts, and that these come and go. Being curious helps them acknowledge those sensations without acting on them. In other words, they can ride the wave of a craving out by naming and sitting with the thoughts and feelings that arise in their bodies and minds from moment to moment, until those moments pass. If you're curious to see how well this might work for you, now is a good time to give it a try. The next time you find yourself indulging in a bad habit, take a moment to pause and consider using mindfulness to help you overcome it. Your behaviors may not change immediately, but stick with it. If you can hack your mind using our methods, you will eventually be able to break free of unwanted habits and comfortably watch your cravings pass by.
3. When life gets busy, focus on a few key habits. By Jackie Coleman and John Coleman. 8 months ago, we welcomed our third child. Given that we've written about how to navigate careers, stress, and even annual planning as a couple, you'd think we'd be prepared for wonderful but disruptive life events like these. But as Mike Tyson famously quipped, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. The past year has been a time of radical prioritization for us. We're constantly optimizing, identifying our most essential priorities and activities, while reluctantly and painfully cutting things that are important but not urgent. Maybe you're facing a life event that forces this type of radical prioritization. Whether it's changing jobs, taking care of a sick parent, relocating, or facing a difficult diagnosis. Disruptions in life can make it hard to maintain moment-by-moment focus and well-being, much less think months or years into the future. Long-term goals remain important, but in the fog of life's most intense moments, long-term focus can be hard. Daily or weekly habits aligned with your long-term goals can keep you on track even when it's hard to think ahead, and they can add stability in an otherwise unsteady time. Each of us have regular practices we try to maintain to give our lives structure, to remain mentally and physically healthy, and to assure we're approaching life consciously. These habits, important at any time, are essential in our busiest and most chaotic periods. So, what do these habits look like? The first step in maintaining regular habits is to articulate and track them. We find the key is to keep this simple. What are the 5 to 10 things you need to do daily or weekly to keep life on track? Once you've written them down, track them. The Momentum app, for example, is an easy way to set daily and weekly habits and be reminded of them. There are many others. You can also use a simple Excel spreadsheet or paper planner. The important thing is to reflect on the right habits, write them down, and stay accountable. When setting habits, we've found the most critical are clustered in 4 key areas. The first is personal reflection. This can look radically different depending on the person. For us, as people of faith, this involves prayer and scriptural study. It also includes religiously agnostic habits, like keeping diaries, documenting the funny things our children say, and crafting gratitude journals in which we can record what's happening in our lives and what we are grateful for multiple times per week. Studies have shown that these kinds of practices can help us better process life events and remain joyful about the good we experience. Relatedly, we need time for professional reflection. For years, John has maintained the same professional routine. He sits down on Sunday night with a weekly Moleskine planner and maps out his most important meetings and priorities for the week. This helps him assure he's focused on not simply what's most visible or immediate, but what's actually important. And it offers structure so that when new demands arise, he can more easily prioritize them. Then, each morning, he inserts a note card into the planner where he prioritizes what needs to be done that day. Simple, daily reflection on priorities and to-dos can make a meaningful difference in productivity and focus. A third category of activities is building and maintaining relationships. Social science is crystal clear on the centrality of relationships to personal well-being. It's important to prioritize and manage relationships. For us, right now, the primary relationships we're focused on are with our kids and with each other. Each day, we structure a bedtime ritual with the kids where we all spend time together, reading and talking about our highs and lows. As a couple, we try to make time to speak every day and to get out of the house together, without the kids, once per week. We also each try to make at least some time to spend with a friend or two once a week. These sound like small things, but they can be critical to maintaining positive relationships and emotional well-being. Finally, we all need to maintain habits that encourage physical and mental health. Studies show that people who get at least 2 days of exercise per week are happier, with each additional day boosting happiness further. As little as 20 minutes of exercise can boost mood, and 11 minutes of lifting weights can boost metabolic rate. For mental health, daily meditation can be a lifesaver for restoring some order and balance in disordered and imbalanced times. Apps like Headspace and Calm have made practices like this more accessible than ever, and easier to track and maintain. For both of us, the simple act of reserving 30 minutes each day for reading or writing can also promote mental health, a task that seems to be backed by science. Everyone's life looks different, but we all have periods of life that are busy, disordered, and stressful. In those times, short-term habits, weekly or daily practices, can trump long-term goals as a way to focus, survive, and thrive.
4. The right way to form new habits. An interview with James Clear by Allison Beard. Developing good habits starts with self-awareness and discipline. When you make the active choice to read 10 pages of a book, work out for 30 minutes, or meditate every day, it can only be sustained by being aware of how this habit will benefit you, not only that day, but in the long run as well. People who recognize how habits play into living a happier lifestyle understand that small efforts can make a huge impact. James Clear is an entrepreneur who recognizes the importance of habits. He is the author of
Sample complete. Ready to continue?